chapter of the story.
Yeah, that's the second chapter. You remember I was writing it as one book.
Yes.
And the publisher said, you've got 2 books in one.
Okay.
And so we broke it into 2. And the first one was about the removal of Mbeki.
Yes.
And the second, it's about the issues, policy issues, the issues we had to deal with, and contested terrain.
Yeah.
Which I believe, most of which was never properly understood.
Okay.
And I thought those of us who were directly involved should write about it.
Yeah.
And that's what I've done.
Okay, so one of the big ones was the removal of Vusi Pikoli.
Yeah, it's one of the chapters.
Yeah.
It's actually, it's not about the removal of Vusi Pikoli.
Yeah.
It's about syndicates. You see, if you read the story of Pikoli and Celebi,
yeah,
that's where you see how syndicates plan to make sure that they go scot-free.
Yeah.
That's really the chapter, if you're looking for a message out of that chapter.
Yeah.
So the removal of Pikoli and the conviction of Celebi are just incidental in the story, in that chapter.
Yeah, there's quite a strong point about just the tensions between the two sides at the time and what it might have come to had it been left unattended.
No, that's exactly what I've talked about. I talked about it in the Genoana Commission.
Yeah.
I talked about in Parliament. I've always said, we'll hold different views with my comrade Pikoli about that particular matter, because he has a different perspective. But the point is, there was a risk of confrontation between armed forces. When you have that type of situation as a president, you need to make sure it never happens. Yeah. Yeah, and that to me was the critical issue.
But the
media, of course, the media kept on talking about, no, he's protecting Celebi.
Yeah.
Now I'm saying in the chapter, Celebi was charged months later after that.
Yeah.
So the issue about him being charged was not the issue. It was the manner in which they were going about to deal with it.
So the armed forces of a country that aligned to individuals?
No, they're not aligned to individuals. I think if you decide that the Scorpions will raid the intelligence headquarters of the police, you're creating a conflict situation. Because, the Scorpions had only about 500 men, including officials and secretaries. The police have got a huge contingent. You can't go and raid it.
Yeah.
You make arrangements to do that. And I was tasked to facilitate that process. That's why I know it so well.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was no barring of the Scorpions to go in there and get what they want. In fact, they had gone into that facility already.
Yeah.
Per arrangement, they had looked at the files. The key issue is that the intelligence service say you can't take away source files. So source files, it's information that gets thrown into a file before analysis. Now, informers can give you wrong information. So you don't work on the basis that any information that comes is valid.
Okay.
And so you don't take away source files.
Yeah.
And that was the issue. And if you are going to raid the facility for that purpose, then you create a problem.
Yeah. So when people have read this and those chapters, what do you think they will understand? Will it be a better understanding? Do the waters become a little bit more muddy?
I think they will have a better understanding. Of course, if you come at this book with preconceived ideas, you want to keep the popular story. I talk about the popular story.
Yeah.
Then, of course, you'll be disappointed because I'm not in line with the popular story. I'm telling you the real story because I dealt with the issues. I handled them directly. I sat in those meetings with Pikoli. I sat in the meetings with Celebi. I sat with the president meeting the commanders of the police to arrange for, releasing Celebi so that he can deal with the case. So I was there. And that's why I'm telling the story from a perspective of a person who was there.
And then there was the 10 days that President Mbeki had asked for at the time.
Yeah, he asked for 2 weeks. Really,
for 2
roughly.
weeks. Yeah.
Said to give me 2 weeks to deal with this matter.
Yeah.
So that I can make arrangements for the command system of the police to take over, etc. and so forth. And indeed, we did that.
Yeah.
Even after Pikoli was removed, we went through the stages. You'll remember January of that year when Mbeki was accused of not attending a rally of the ANC. We were meeting the police on that very day.
Okay.
Actually, to say to the police, the commander is going. We're appointing another person to take over from today.
Yeah.
And this is what is going to happen. So that there is proper transition rather than a dramatic transition that just causes Supreme. Because Sibyl Selebi wasn't refusing to go to court or be arrested. That was not the issue.
Yeah.
And that's the point I'm making. I think the point is, tell the story to the public. The public relied on what people were communicating. At times there are dominant perspectives about a story.
Yes.
But it does not mean that the dominant perspectives are the correct perspectives.
Okay. And then about AIDS?
Yeah, about AIDS.
It's treacherous, that one.
Yeah, it's 3 chapters.
Yeah.
But I mean, the first chapter, it's about pharmaceuticals. So
Yeah.
we shouldn't make it part of the debate. You remember there was a time when there was a big contestation with pharmaceutical companies about prices.
Yes.
That's the first chapter. The second chapter is really about the controversy around Mbeki's handling of the AIDS matter. And the third chapter, it's about how we resolved it. Because people forget that. We resolved it by 2003. We put up one of the best policies. The policy you are working on at the present moment was actually developed in 2003. And it has been in place up to date.
Yeah.
By the time Mbeki was removed in 2008, people were still critiquing him about what happened before 2003.
2003, yeah.
But in fact, the actual policy at that point was the best policy in the world.
So, I mean, this one, I suppose the issues are a little bit more muted, comparatively speaking, if you look at the 8 days in September.
Yeah.
The 8 days in September, more explosive. I mean, the nation consumed by a particular event that would change our course forever.
Yeah, no, 8 days was a special moment.
Yeah.
And it was special because it has to do with the removal of a president.
Yeah, of the head of state.
And it's like a story. It's like somebody said, it's a thriller. You know, you read a story that's very dramatic. It has never happened before.
Yeah.
The second one deals with the issues.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about substance,
yeah.
that's what the second book is doing.
Do you know if President Mbeki will write his own book about his removal?
I don't know. I think the challenge with Mbeki is that he's never talked. You've never heard him talking about himself. He never writes about himself.
Yeah.
He talks about the issues that confront the world.
Yeah.
Even when he was president and you invite him to speak on South Africa, he would speak on Africa and say we are part of Africa.
Yeah.
And if you don't solve the problem of Africa, you can't solve the problem of South
Africa.
You know, I mean, it's that type of a person.
Yeah, so he'll never write about his own sense of that fateful 8-day period.
I doubt he'll go and do that himself, but you don't know.
He might talk to somebody about it. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much for coming in to talk to us.
Thank you.
Interesting stories. The Reverend Frank Chikane was Director General in the Presidency, talking about his latest book. It's called The Things That Could Not Be Said. We've got a graphic of the book, and it's available at all leading bookstores now.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for coming in to talk to us this